Hello, and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I am so glad you joined me again today. As always, I have another wonderful guest on that's going to be on later, and I can't wait to introduce her. But before I do, I just want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Dr. Stephen Hotze with the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. We are very grateful for his sponsorship because it helps us get this podcast produced and out to you. And we want to invite you to either be a sponsor of the show or to even donate to the show so that we can continue to make improvements and continue to get this important message out to the world. And the message is that abortion kills children and hurts women and men and families, and that the abortion industry does not tell you everything you need to know. In fact, that's supposed to be our subtitle to our show, More to the Story with Molly White, what the abortion industry doesn't tell you that we will tell you. And so if you would like to be a part of this, then we invite you to go to more to the story podcast.org or go to operationoutcry.org, where you will find a link on there to either sponsor or donate to our podcast. And we appreciate that. And I'd also appreciate you sharing this link, on this podcast to everyone because we do want to get the word out there about abortion and to minister to those who may be hurting. So we invite you to spread it far and wide, and even leave a comment or contact us, if there's, how this show it impacts you, or if you have any suggestions. We're always look forward to hearing from our viewers and our listeners. Now, I'd like to let you know that my awesome, fabulous, wonderful co-host, Mary Browning, is not going to be with us today. She's doing very important work for the Lord, which has to do with a lawsuit about Planned Parenthood. And she is actually working with some of our ladies with Operation Outcry, who are going to be, I guess, plaintiffs in this lawsuit. So she is with them today, and I'm very happy about that. So to take Mary's place, I've invited my awesome, wonderful producer, Terrence Townsend with Wisdom Works, to step in if he wants to. If he has any questions or comments during the podcast, you may be hearing from him. And like Mary always does, she gives a show disclaimer. We are going to be talking about abortion and personal testimonies about abortion and abortion harm. If you have young children around and you may not want them to hear this information, then I'd encourage you to distract them or put them in the other room, or save this link for another time to listen to, because we will be, sharing intimate things about the abortion experience. And also, if you start experiencing feelings that bubble up during this podcast and during this conversation, feelings of maybe sadness, remorse, regret, anger, even, those might be just little signs that you may have some unhealed wounds from your past abortion. And we want you to take that as a signal that God wants to heal you deeper, if you're having those feelings and experiences. So we want to invite you to that, and that you can find all kinds of resources at the H3 helpline number, 866-721-7881. Or you can go to the operationoutcry.org website. There's a list of abortion recovery programs there. And, there's no excuse not to go through healing. In fact, it's the best thing you will ever do. And God will use it. Just like our next guest that's coming up, he is using this young woman phenomenally. She is a singer and songwriter. She lives in Florida, and she has a story to tell us. Her name is Afton Brown, and we would invite you on, Afton. There you are.
Hi.
Hi. Well, thank you
Hi.
so much for joining us, Afton. I'm very honored to have you as a guest on our podcast, and I can't wait to hear your story and now how God is using your story, to bring hope and
Thank
healing to
you.
others. So introduce yourself a little bit.
Thank Yes, so like she said, my name is Afton Brown. I live in North Florida with my husband and our three children. And I'm actually newer to all of this and meeting all of these people because I just kind of came out with my story publicly in the last couple of years. But it's been a pretty packed full couple of years of just kind of saying yes to the Lord, saying yes to going through my healing, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. Um, and yeah, I don't know how
Well,
much you want me to say, but really that's the gist of it. I stay home with our three kids. We homeschool. My daughters are 16 and 14, and my son is 7. And my husband has a real estate company, so that's what we do
awesome.
for a
That's
living.
wonderful. So let's kind of go back and I guess take it from where it started. You just started sharing your story. I've been sharing mine for, I don't know, close to 30 years. And, and it's like once you share, God starts to move, right? So
Yes,
so kind of take
absolutely.
us back to where it all began.
Well, you want to go back as far as like when the
Yes, yes.
abortion
Let's go back
happened?
there. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So I always like to tell people without going too in depth because it could be a whole nother long story. But I grew up in a church that was, and I'm finding this is actually not that uncommon, but I grew up in a church that was very unique, very different, and it was there was just a lot of everybody watching kind of everything you did. There was a lot of like scrutiny and just having to toe the line and getting in trouble for things. So I think everyone in our church just kind of, there were a lot of rules, lots of rules. And I think everyone just kind of learned to, you never really talked about anything real. You just kind of put a smile on your face and everything was okay. And nobody really talked about the real stuff going on. So I don't think that's that uncommon, but that's kind of where I was coming from. And I actually, um, grew up there my whole life. I left there 21-ish or so. And just kind of trying to find myself and who I was and whatnot. So I fast forward a few years, and I ended up in a relationship that I probably shouldn't have been in. And, a few months in, we ended up becoming pregnant. And I was, of course, completely caught off guard. And I try to be
Mm.
careful what I say because this is my side of the story, and I try not to involve
Right.
anybody else in it. Because my truth is that I have not spoken to the other side about that since this all went down. So I try to be very gracious in how I share. Um, and so anyway, there were my relationship with this person was very secret. We didn't talk about it with anybody. So I really didn't talk to my friends about it. I had a trusted family member. He had a trusted family member that were older than us, adults in our lives, and they, uh, you know, approved, I guess, of us having our little secret relationship. So that's kind of where we would hide out at those places and have our relationship. So that's the person I called
Mm.
when this happened. You know, what do I do? Freaking out. And I wasn't really freaking out yet, but I was kind of in shock. What do I do? And this person, again, who was the trusted adult in my life, um, basically told me that I did this on purpose to tear their
Oh.
family apart and that I would go get it taken
Mm.
care of. And again, mind you, I'm 24. So 23, I guess I was 23 at the time. So anyway, I get off the phone and I call the person in my family, and I'm squalling at this point saying, this is what just happened and this is what this person just said to me. And the person in my family says, tries to calm me and, very kind, but says, I think that that's probably the best
Mm.
idea so that we can move past this. I do believe that at the time she thought she was doing the best thing for me. Um, and I also like to preface this because I would love to think that one day any of these people might see or hear any of this, and I do not hold any blame. I don't have any hate in my heart. I take full responsibility for my decision. And God has really worked in my life, and I would like to believe that He's worked in their lives too. So there's no, I hold no
Amen.
anything like, praying for their healing, and whether He orchestrates that conversation one day or not, who knows? But I'm here for it if He does, and everything's okay. So thank the Lord for His
Amen.
healing.
And thank you for your
Um,
graciousness. Yes. Hmm.
we all were. It was part of their
Right.
story. What I did was part of mine. What they did and said was
Right.
part of theirs. So it's not like I'm right here. Um, and so I did very quickly schedule and go get that done. It was actually a very traumatic experience for me. I had medication to put me under, and I remember crying throughout the procedure. And I kind of remember seeing like an ultrasound machine when they took me to the room after to, have juice and make sure that I wasn't going to pass out or whatever. I do remember there being other people in there. Couldn't tell you anything about them, and I was just
Mm.
a basket case. I was the one who was just squalling and squalling, and my family member that had taken me had to kind of help walk me out because I was just there was something wrong with
Yeah.
my soul.
Amen.
Imagine that. I was having time with it, and went back to my apartment by myself. The one thing that sticks out to me the most is that physically, I had a hard time recovering. I had a really hard time
Mm.
walking. It was hard for me to use my legs, they were very, very weak. Um, I find that very strange, and I'm interested to see if there are other people who say that happened to them as well. But recovery was difficult, and I couldn't really talk about it to anybody. So, I took off from work a little bit and then
All right,
went back to work.
let's kind
And
of stop right there so we can get some questions answered. So, Terrence wants to know, did you feel a sense of loss at that time when you were coming out of your abortion procedure and in the recovery room? That had to be where those tears came from.
I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly. I just knew that something was
Yeah.
very wrong. I mean, I didn't come out saying, I feel like
Right.
I've lost something. It was just, this is not right. This is not good. And I think that there are probably things more on a spiritual level that, between a mother and the baby that she's carrying that we don't
Right.
even realize. Um, and I'm grateful that I was able to, feel that because I feel like from that point on, I mean, I already had walls, many walls, church days, because that was just you had to have walls. You had to just kind of
Right.
march forward and not think about things, or you'd go crazy. Um, but after this happened, it got way worse.
Yeah. Well, a
So
very, very
I
tall and wide wall, huh? To protect
absolutely.
yourself and to cope, really, it's a coping mechanism, actually. I remember I was very traumatized after my abortion, and I built those walls as well and, having to do whatever to forget. But I did want to, ask, so what is a common thread with your story is that women need support. When we're pregnant and we're scared and we're not sure of things and so common is if we don't get that support, and others then give us a suggestion of abortion, we're more than likely to tend to go that way because we don't have that support. And I'm not criticizing anyone involved in your life, but that's just the fact. We need the support, and then really others are trying to put their choice on us. And being young and naive, we don't even know. And I'm sure you didn't know that there were pregnancy resource centers or there were other options for you out there. But I did have a question about when you scheduled your abortion and when you went to the clinic, were you given any counseling, any alternatives, any support? Did they see that you were upset and say, maybe we ought to reconsider this? Did you get anything like that at all?
Not to my recollection. Obviously, they're like I said, I they gave me the medication. Um, I don't remember anything like that. It was very kind of, you're in and you're out. Even getting there, I don't remember really speaking with anyone before taking the medication. Not on a more than just a check-in sort of level. I can't imagine that I would have had a conversation with anybody after
Yeah.
it was over. I just was
Or
squalling, and
yeah,
then I was being helped out.
yeah, or even meeting with the doctor prior.
No.
I've had a surgery last month. Lots of discussions with the doctors, lots of pamphlets, read all of this, sign these documents. I'm about to have surgery again and another one later this month. So there's all kinds of discussions, all kinds of, the pros and cons and those kind of things. And
Right.
that happens in regular medical industry, but not in the abortion industry. And I'm sorry, I just had to point that out for our listeners and our viewers because we want them to understand it's not like going to your doctor. It's not like having a checkup. It's not information based or a choice based on information. So I'm sorry for interrupting. I just kind of wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
And what year was this? Do you remember the year?
This was around 2007.
Okay, so not that long ago. But it's the same trend since the beginning. Since they're not the abortion industry is not there to try to help you. They're there
No.
to abort your children. So
Yeah.
after you left, you had built up walls. You went home to your apartment. Take us from that point.
Okay. I didn't really self destruct in a drug and alcohol sort of way. I do hear that a lot from people. Mine was mostly just relationships, getting involved in not good ones, and,
Mhm.
you know, not valuing myself, certainly. Just thinking this next one will be better. This next one will be better. So I just wasn't in a good place. I certainly at that point didn't, you probably wouldn't have known it on the outside looking in because I, just friendly and talkative and had a lot of personality, but
Mhm.
really deep inside, I was just not feeling amazing about myself. And so I looked for, that fulfillment instead of God. I was running to, boys for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I did for a little while. And it's interesting because it's funny how you get on something like this and then it brings up things and you're like, oh, I never really planned to say anything like this.
Yes. Yes.
um,
Absolutely.
that's true. But I just pushed people away. I didn't want anyone to get too close. So I'm not going to say that I'm not saying that everyone that I was dating or trying to have a relationship, they weren't bad people. It was just, I didn't have anything I wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
So I would just push them away, especially if they were good,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so,
and that
um,
is a self-punishment
and
type behavior.
it,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and it's not good. I mean, it leads to all kinds of issues. So
What
I ended up meeting my husband,
Okay. Okay, good. Mhm.
and that's the thing I was gonna say is like we did end up getting pregnant before marriage. He was 45 at the time, so he's much older than I am, but a wonderful gentleman. Had never had children, and I just remember thinking, it wasn't in my plans when I was younger, right? You get married and then you have
Right.
the child, but I just know, and I'm not justifying anything, but I know that God knows me. And I absolutely know that I would have pushed him away had we not gotten pregnant with our daughter because I was already in the process of doing it.
Mhm.
It was just what do you call it?
S
Self
Yes.
sabotage.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't doing anything to deserve it, but I was finding ways to not deserve his
Mhm.
kindness, if that
Right,
makes sense.
absolutely.
we ended up pregnant with our daughter, and the rest is history. We have 3 children now, but I thank God for that. I thank God, number one, that I was still able to have children, because I know I've heard many stories of post-abortive women that were not able to get pregnant. So I am so grateful for that. But even though it was out of order for us, I'm thankful, because who knows where I would be right now,
Amen. Amen.
in this perpetual kind of
And
cycle.
so your husband was real supportive, or boyfriend at the time, when y'all got pregnant. How was that different from the first time?
Oh, he was jumping for
Mm,
joy. Of course, it was unplanned, but he was, like I said, he was 45. He might have been 44. He was 45 when we had her. He never thought he could have
mm,
children. His previous marriage, they just never did, and he thought probably it was him, so he thought maybe he
mm.
couldn't. But he was so excited to tell his family. And that was something I was going to say before is, again, to make this clear, I don't blame anyone, uh, but myself. Ultimately, yes, there was a group of people involved, but I really do believe that had the confidants in my life, had the adults in my life said, hey, not ideal situation, but we're going to figure this out and we're going to get through it. I really do believe that I would have chosen life, because, like you said, in that moment, you are just so, you know,
Mhm.
vulnerable. Like, somebody just tell me what I need to do, especially when you're young and you haven't lived your life
Right.
yet. Um, so there, what you said earlier, there is something huge to that, and that is a big reason why I wanted to tell my story in the song that we'll talk about later that I wrote. I'm like, this is not just for people who are post abortive going through healing. Absolutely. But I want people to hear this and to, um, you know, through the video, hopefully experience it a little bit and think, what would I say if somebody came to me? Like,
Right.
what, go ahead and practice your response. What's it going to be?
Yes.
Because pregnancy and having a baby just doesn't have to be the end of the world.
Amen.
It felt like the world in that
Yeah.
moment.
But it's not
Yeah, not
once
not
you
even
start
just because
thinking
of the
things
baby.
through and processing and having that support around you, it's not the end of the world. It can be scary. But I kind of
Yeah,
wanted to interject here a little bit that, I learned in this childhood trauma and abortion recovery training that I went through. The psychiatrist drew a big circle on a chalkboard, and it was a pie. He goes, "Okay, tell me who's responsible for your abortion." And of course, all of us in the room says, "Oh, I'm responsible." Well, he drew a little piece of the pie and he put personal. He goes, "Well, who else is responsible?" And we were going, "What do you mean, who else?" Well, he divided that pie into so many different pieces, like the doctor, the abortion clinic staff, whoever might have encouraged you, the attorneys, lawyers, the Supreme Court, and he started dividing this pie up into lots of different pieces. But what stuck out to me is he said, "We're responsible, only 100% responsible for our piece of the pie. There's everybody else is responsible for their piece of the pie." But it's really ourself and what we need to take responsibility from. We can't take that whole burden on us. We didn't make abortion
yeah,
legal. We weren't the attorneys involved. We weren't doctors and nurses that knew about this stuff. So I just kind of wanted to share that because I don't think too many people know, and it was relating to what you were saying. Everyone needs to know that there is some kind of responsibility and weight when you encourage someone to have an abortion, or take someone to the abortion clinic, or pay for someone to have an abortion, or perform the
yeah,
abortion, or work at the abortion clinic staff and withhold information for the woman to make an educated decision. There's a piece of pie that everybody's responsible for when it comes to one woman's abortion.
yeah.
And we
I
and
love
we want
that.
everybody to
And
heal from
and
it.
the
We want everyone to heal from that.
exactly. It's not just for the person who went through the experience or through the abortion.
Absolutely.
It's for everybody that's involved to repent and just kind of realize their part, like you
Yes.
said, take responsibility for their part.
Amen. So let's
So
kind of jump
I agree
forward.
with
Your husband was awesome. He was excited. So I'm sure that made you excited. And take us from there. But Terrence has a question. How did having an abortion affect your relationship with your new baby? Well, I'm sure she'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, take us from that point.
Okay, I'm back. I'm on his question. So tell me what you
Uh,
said. From where? Where are we
well, go
from?
ahead. Go ahead and answer that, and then we'll move to your,
Okay.
your relationship with the Lord, and then your healing, and then we want to get to your song before it's over. Mhm.
Yes, yes. Well, to be honest with you, my walls from my abortion were big, thick, and strong. I built them very securely, so much so that when I started walking through my healing in 2022, I really had to start going back and trying to remember what happened, when was it, where was I, who was involved. And it really took some digging to remember, okay, yes, I was living here. I mean, I had to walk through all this. I talked to some friends. We made some notes, made some timelines. And I literally had to try to track down what year was this? How old was I? Because I just shut it out. I did not talk about
Yeah.
it. And so I didn't think about it when I had my baby. I'm sure there were, little thoughts that would occur here and there. But it wasn't like I was dealing with this deep grief over it when I saw my baby. I was very consumed with being a new mom. But in a little while, we'll talk about when it did come up in their older years, which is kind of the theme of the song
Okay.
that I wrote, the music video. So
So then,
anyway, okay, so where
so
were we?
kind of like taking us to now, maybe your relationship with the Lord, and then you're through your healing process, or what followed after that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, life just was happening, and we had our daughter, and then 22 months later, we had our second daughter. At some point, I really can't remember, but as the girls started getting just a little older, I began volunteering just a little bit for the Pregnancy Care Center. I wish I could go back. I need to talk to the director, the former director, and say, do you remember when I started volunteering? I need to ask her, but just little things. I would do, help with the banquet or help with some fundraiser they were doing on the side. And then I started hosting a table at the banquet, but I still wasn't talking
Mhm.
about what I had
Yeah.
done. I just was there, being helpful, and I was grateful for what they were doing. But I still was like, it's not like, it's really strange, those walls, because it's not like I was going home going, oh man, I feel so
Right.
guilty about. No, I just was like, man, I love what they're doing. This is a great thing. I was learning more about life. I knew what
It
I
was
had
all
done in the back of my
subconscious.
head, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I was never thinking I really should go through healing. For a long time, I mean, honestly, until close to the time that I started my healing in 2022, I either didn't know they had a healing course there, or I just went in one ear and out the other because I didn't ever really focus on that. God really just hit me with it really hard at the banquet in 2022. So, like I said, I was never doing anything super consistent or heavy, but I was showing up, I was doing little things. And I hosted a table at the banquet in 2022. And I don't know if you know of David Williams, but he's a great speaker in this
Oh, life.
realm. And yeah, so he was the guest speaker at our fundraiser banquet in 2022, and I thought, that's interesting to hear from a man because normally it's a woman and her story or whatever. It was so powerful, and it didn't take long for him to get into his story, and he started talking about how he had encouraged, I believe it was two different abortions in college with his college girlfriend, encouraged, paid for them, whatever. He played that role. And now he's talking about he's older and he's married. He's got a beautiful wife. They have beautiful children, and they're going to church, and he's in ministry and all these great things. But when he goes home, behind closed doors, there's all this anger. And where does this come from? Why? Like, I have nothing to be angry about. And that really resonated with me because I felt the same way. And so he said he was at a ministry thing. I'm not going to do all the details, but basically he was at something doing ministry. And one of the gentlemen came up to him and said, asked him, had he really healed from his role in the abortions? And he was thinking like, well, yeah, of course I've healed. I'm serving the Lord, and the guy's like, have you really healed, like walked through healing. And he was like, God, well, gosh, I guess not, you know. So it was that little part of his story that I just, in the chair, I knew immediately I have to walk through healing. I have to walk through, you know, and I have to open this
Yeah.
box up.
And that kinda
And
wants me I
I
just
mean,
need to
I,
jump in here and say, God is sneaky, isn't he?
yes,
God knows
he is.
where to put us and who to put us in front of at just the time, that he speaks to us and shows us something that we weren't looking for, you know?
Right,
Mhm,
absolutely. Yeah.
mhm.
So I did. I called the pregnancy care center pretty much right away, maybe the next day or something. And they said, well, let's get it. We got another lady that wants to do it. So let's start. So we started just a few weeks later. Of course, that was the
And
eight
what was
week
the name of it?
course,
Forgive
Surrendering the
Surrendering the
Secret.
Secret, okay.
Yes. Which was
Mhm.
wonderful. Highly
I've done that,
recommend.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. Mm,
And I want to do it
yeah.
again. I'd love to do it a second time. But somewhere around week 5 or so, she said, I just want to give you a heads up. We're going to, can't remember if it was week 6 or 7. In the next week or two, we're going to write something to our babies. It can be a poem or a letter or a song or whatever you want it to be. And God had already kind of dropped that thought into my head months and months
Wow.
before. Like, one day you're going to write a song about this that people can relate to. So as soon as she said that, I was like, you're writing a song. I knew it. And I went home that week and I wrote the song in, like, I don't know, an hour. I had the music, I had the words. I didn't have to toil over it. It just came. And so I sang that with my little group of healing ladies. We had a little memorial for our babies, and I sang that just to
Wow,
them, and we all cried together.
wow,
And it was beautiful. And then the next year, 2023 banquet, I sang that song
wow,
live in our community.
wow,
So that was the first time that I had come public.
wow,
So that was 2023. And it was a beautiful
wow.
opportunity. And then 20, so I released the song in 2023. And then in 2024, we made the music video, which we just finished in November.
And yeah,
And I'll just tell you really,
please do.
we took it to we took it to the Christian Worldview Film Festival in Albany, Georgia, um, and my filmmaker is my best friend's son. He owns a company in Lake City called Meant to Be Media. He's 16.
Wow,
He finished this music video when he was 15 years
wow.
old, and it is exactly what I wanted and what I envisioned. And he took home the award in Georgia for the best young
Wow.
filmmaker for the music
Praise
video.
God,
Yeah,
praise God. See how
yeah.
wonderful, God moves in our life when we just surrender, we walk through that healing journey and how God can use it. I know we're gonna be posting a link, to your music video, when we, advertise this, podcast on our, Facebook page and all of our social media sites, and so I can't wait for it to be released, which is gonna be Tuesday, correct? Tuesday is,
Uh, Thursday,
Thursday would be April 17th.
17th at 10:30 a.m. There will be a live. You can go to All to His Table on YouTube,
Go to
and
where?
there's
All
a
to
count.
his table?
All to His Table, which is the name of my album.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah. Well, at 10:30 Eastern, we'll have a countdown, and then it'll play live. So, and then you guys, of course, will have access to it
oh,
as
yeah,
well.
I cannot wait. In fact, will you wanna sing a few lines? Oh, good.
Sure. Oh. Okay. Let's see. I need to start at the beginning, probably. Once upon a time, back in another life, and I don't even recognize that girl. I guess I was looking for someone to love me more. One moment that waged a war on my whole world. I didn't know you were a baby. I didn't know that you were alive. You were created in God's image, but all that they told to me were lies. But God has a plan and your life matters. He made good what they meant for harm. We have been healed by our Redeemer. Now we can both rest in His arms.
Wow, absolutely moving, beautiful, and so is your voice. Gosh, you see, God is an awesome God. He's taken
He is.
young Afton, who Satan tried to destroy through the abortion experience. He had healed her, molded her, given her this beautiful talent of singing and songwriting. And it's an honor and a privilege to have you on our podcast, Afton, and to sing part of that song. It's absolutely beautiful. I cannot wait for its release. I cannot wait to share it with everyone I know. And I know God is going to use it powerfully. It's going to be an economic blessing for you, it's going to be a ministry blessing for you. And it's going to lead so many wounded women and men and family members to the saving grace of Jesus Christ and the healing that God has for us. So thank you. Is there anything else you would like to close with before we have to go?
I just love what you said. That's my prayer, is that we can show the love and the true character of God through sharing our stories.
Amen.
In the music video, it's kind of it shows the story of me telling really, it was in real life, two teenage daughters, but one of my daughters plays that role. In the video, it's me and it's my daughter. And, I had a few people say in the beginning, when I was going to go public, I needed to tell my kids. And, some people had a really hard time with that. Why do you tell your kids? Well, it's my heart that if our children, the next generation, can know the truth, that they won't have to keep perpetuating these
Amen.
cycles. So it is hard for them to hear, but at the same time, if it's them, or if it's a friend, or maybe even someone they don't know, I want them to be prepared to say, hey, I'll help you, or my mom can help you, or let's get you plugged in. My girls are going to know the truth, because if you don't know, it's just like, when I said it, I didn't make my choice out of, I didn't want to do something wrong and bad and ugly. I was just trying to escape a bad situation. People only can make a choice with what they know and the truth that they have. So I just encourage people. Oh, I wanted to tell you, I have a new social media ministry called Luna, Living Underneath Abortion,
Mm,
and you can find Facebook and Instagram. It's just all I want to do is help share stories in short. So any women that see this that want to share your story, and we don't have time today, but I have a whole Luna moth story behind my baby, my abortion.
awesome.
So, but I encourage people to go check that out if they want to share their story, even if they want to do it anonymously. I want to facilitate more people just coming out, because the more people that tell their truth, the less it can hide in the dark.
Amen. Well said. And we want to encourage too. That reminds me of, to help share your story, you can go to operationoutcry.org and fill out a declaration, which is really a questionnaire about your abortion experience. You can use your full name, you can just use your initials. But I believe this questionnaire will help you even move towards your healing experience. And of course, and it can be used in educating lawmakers and supporting pro-life laws that might be facing litigation at the Supreme Court or any level of the judicial system. But it's the power of testimony, and that testimony, and every time you share it, every time I share it, God heals me a little bit deeper, and takes me a little bit uh, uh, closer and closer to him, so it's important to do that. Thank you, Afton. Thank you for those beautiful words, your testimony, and sharing part of that beautiful song I Didn't Know with us, which is going to be released. They had it on our screen, or Terrence did, on Take It to the Table. Is that
All to his table, like all to the
all?
Lord's table. So it's all
All
to
to
his
the
table.
table to hear. I didn't know about by Afton
There
Brown.
you go.
Okay.
All to his table.
Amen. Well, thank you so much. And thank y'all for tuning in to More to the Story with Molly White, what the abortion industry doesn't tell you. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless you. Bye bye.
lies that I couldn't see, paying the penalty for what I